Hi there, this is Jason Gorber, and we're here to look today at the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro from Samsung, their latest set of earbuds. Now, I've had quite a bit of experience with these. I had a Galaxy Bud from the first generation, and they were always okay. I think Samsung made decent, okay earphones, but nothing particularly spectacular, especially when you contrast it with what you could get sort of at the same price point from other manufacturers. But I gotta say, sort of spill the beans right out the top, these are excellent. They're particularly excellent if you actually have a Samsung device. More on that in a bit. So as you can see from the packaging, it's relatively tiny. I mean, I'm so used now to these giant boxes that you unpack, creating an experience, as it were. I'm actually quite pleased that despite being a very premium product, it's actually housed in a small little tiny box. Inside, you have basically just where the sort of egg, I know it's white on white, it's hard to tell, but inside here, as we get closer to the camera, let's see if that, there we go. You can see there's a little egg thing and a little cardboard box that houses some stuff. Now, on behalf of those of us that aren't always the smartest when it comes to this, that actually confused me a bit, because what happened when I took these out and I thought, okay, great. So here's our little earphones, right? And inside we have exactly what one would expect, the little things that go in your ear. And inside here, it's all sort of glued in. You have just a charging cable. I thought, okay, that's weird. I guess they didn't give us ear pads. But no problem, because normally my ears sort of fit the standard medium or whatever it is. So I put these in and stuck them in my ear, and I found them, they were fine, but they would fall out. They were a little bit uncomfortable. In other words, the mediums were a little bit too small for my ear canal. And I thought, okay, well, somewhere in here, I mean, it can't be that they don't include them. So I'm trying to figure out and where the heck they would be. I even thought that maybe this accidentally got glued on. You actually rip it apart, and you can see that it's just here. I mean, it's very simple, quotidian, regular, everyday sort of packaging. And then I thought, well, here's the cable. There's nothing. This is just a cable. I have a gazillion USB to USB-C cables. I don't need to use this one. And then I saw this thing inside, this little sort of white cardboard box. I'm like, oh, what the heck's inside here? And of course, if you open it up in its really weird way, you have the ear bits. But because I got the white model, this is what I received, I wasn't even noticing these. I would have seen it sort of poking out of the cardboard thing. So there you are. May that be a help to anybody who actually purchases these and actually needs to change the ear pads, that they're sort of tucked inside this little cardboard sleeve, which is itself inside this. Again, the joy of lack of any sort of formal documentation saying what's going on. Everything's sort of online and just assumes that everyone's going to notice this. On behalf of somebody who's opened up many, many packages, this was less obvious than you would expect. When I got these sort of larger size on, I was extremely pleased with the fit. They did a really good job. And Samsung, again, their Pro version of their Buds has gone through sort of substantial redesign. They sort of went with something a little bit more fancy with their beans, this sort of shiny bean-like shape, and they've gone to essentially what's a straight-up regular sort of regular set of earbuds, and I couldn't be happier, because the result is very comfortable, no drama in terms of fit and feel once you actually get the right size on. They're extremely light. The battery life is excellent. The case is light and easy to use. But above all of it, the sound is fabulous if you connect with the Samsung device. Now, let's discuss that. This has regular sort of normal Bluetooth connectivity. It doesn't use any of the fancy Qualcomm aptX or any of that stuff. That works sort of on a wide variety of devices that actually accommodate this. But like devices for other hardware manufacturers, fruit-based ones, these headphones will work on anything, but work best when they're paired with a thing from the manufacturer. In other words, if you have a higher end or more recent Samsung device, I happen to have a Galaxy S21 here. This is the trick that to unlock some of its more core features. So from here, you can actually directly connect using Samsung's proprietary high-resolution audio codec. Now, I'm not a fan in general about these sort of walled garden codecs. This one just happens to work because it happens to work with a phone. I'm very used to other buds from other manufacturers only really being effective if you connect them with a device from the exact same manufacturer, and very much the Samsung is that. This is not to say they won't work and won't sound perfectly good with other manufacturers. It's just you truly get these to shine when connected with a Samsung device, and that is critical. Now, that being said, the vast majority of Android devices are from Samsung, so you really have the benefit here, if you're an Android user, of getting the most out of the sound. With the app, which connects, it allows you to dial in things like, obviously, the equalization. It allows you to engage something called 360 audio. We'll get into that again in a sec. But more importantly, it allows you to tweak it to make sure the sound works correctly to your ear. It actually has a test to actually make sure that it's actually sealed in the way that you actually want it to be. And from there, basically, connect, as mentioned, through the higher resolution Bluetooth, which really does make a significant increase in quality for the sound. The difference between me playing, let's say, even from Tidal, something off of this phone, versus I have a personal music player from another manufacturer, which has very high-end DACs, etc., for use with analog. When connected with Bluetooth, it sounded a little bit musically softer, a little bit more distant, a little less, frankly, immersive than with this. So the absolute advantage goes to using this Samsung device with Samsung. Not required, but absolutely benefits from it. Now back to that 360 sound. Ostensibly what it's meant to do is to create some sort of immersion from object-based surround mixes, stuff like Atmos, DTS:X. I'm not sure if it's fully supported. Doesn't really matter. The long story short about that is that I think it's terrible. I think all of them is terrible. This isn't unique to Samsung. I think any of them where you have single drivers and you're using virtualization in order to create some sort of a surround is just not beneficial. There are headphones that actually have multiple drivers inside that can sort of simulate a true surround mix, especially for gamers, where you can hear stuff sort of behind the soundstage and in front. But when it comes to any of these virtualizations, I just think it's pretty much useless and absolutely something that I would not recommend using. It's a gimmick, nothing more. But what isn't a gimmick, as I said, is that Samsung higher resolution Bluetooth connection that absolutely gives you what they claim to be 24-bit audio and much higher resolution audio than even aptX. We have no way of determining that, but I could see that the thing's actually lit up, and simply turning it on and off in my Bluetooth settings, or as I said, changing device to device and listening to the same music, I absolutely heard a difference. I will also say, for the first time in using headphones, earphones this small, I keep saying headphones because I'm of the generation where everything that on your head was a headphone. Using these earphones, that I needed a little bit of break-in. Now, break-in is a very controversial thing, especially in audiophile circles. Some people absolutely believe that everything needs break-in, cables, everything, USB cords, whatever it is. And others think that the whole thing is just nonsense, that you take stuff out of the package and it immediately works. If you think about it with speakers, larger headphones, there's physical, mechanical moving elements. In this case, they're very small, but nonetheless, things move. And so you'd think after manufacture that it requires a little bit of time for just everything to sort of settle in, for the flexibility for it all to sort of take place. And what I was extremely pleased to see is that when I put them in, I thought they were okay. Again, I had the wrong sort of fit ears. I put in the larger ones, and that did a much better job of sealing my ears. And then after a few hours of listening, yes, I'm getting acclimated to the sound, but I really did find it open up. So for what it's worth, for me, for the first time with this type of earphones, I really found that they benefited from being played, from actually having that of just trying them for it. It's not like you need 40 hours or here. It's just you need to give them a chance for all the mechanical elements inside the earbuds to actually do their thing. Now, there are two drivers inside each. There's a woofer and there's a tweeter, and that does a really excellent job of actually creating, as we said, that sort of really large soundstage. I heard a great deal of musical subtlety in particular moments. You could hear, listening to everything from jazz to sort of really deep bass electronic music. Nothing was over-bloated. It wasn't so cranked on the treble or the bass that it became really unlistenable. Because they're Bluetooth and it's internal amplification, you can only set the volume to the maximum of what the devices are. And based on my ears, based on my listening, based on stuff I have, which usually has very high dynamic range, loud stuff and then quiet stuff, I wasn't super pleased with the maximum volume. It would have been nice if there's a little bit of push. Now, again, I tried that on two devices. I saw that the maximum volume was listenable, and it certainly wasn't, but it certainly wasn't bombarding you. And on songs where you really sort of want that oomph, be they classical, be they whatever, for me, I would have liked a little bit more oomph with the power. The disadvantage, of course, is that the more power you have, the lower the battery life. We all know that devices like this, the premium devices like this, have active noise cancellation. The active noise cancellation is okay. I'm not sure it's that substantially worse than sort of the best out there, but I am somebody that turns off active noise cancellation habitually. I know for many people it's an absolute selling factor, but for me, I don't love what it does to the sound, and I find it really sort of unnerving, the sort of weird sensation in your ears as anti-noise is being blasted your way. I just prefer to have a well-fit earphone that the physical construction itself uses passive noise cancellation, so that even when traffic noise or other people talking, if I'm listening to stuff, that it does the trick. I'd rather turn up the volume a little bit more than use ANC. Again, that's a personal preference. The sound itself does change a little bit when ANC. That's, again, pretty common on most devices. The equalization shifts a little bit, and so I found it much less pleasing to be listening, particularly to music, with ANC engaged. If you're listening to this podcast or spoken word, it's really not a big deal. And if you're on a plane and really want to get rid of the rumble, it's a decent solution to do that. So overall, I think these are an extraordinary set of earphones. Absolutely top notch in terms of sound. The battery life was fine. I got 5-6 hours. I think it's 30 hours inside the case, something like that. Specifications are available on the written review at the bestbuy.ca website. But as it stands, I really think that these are a particular benefit to those of you that are using contemporary Samsung devices, because that's where you'll truly unlock not just the 360 benefit, and again, we've talked about why I think that that's relatively redundant, but the high resolution streaming of Bluetooth codec is absolutely a benefit. I think they're nice, they're light, they're comfortable, they fit in extremely quickly and conveniently. They have all the touch controls that you would want. The application, it has great equalization. It allows you to configure however you want the touch code. It has a mode where you start speaking and it sort of mutes the music and actually brings in outside noise. You can actually dial that in instead of having ANC, actually have that outside noise where it's mixing in your music with some of the outside sounds. Again, that is something that I normally disable, but it's nice to be able to have it on just when you're having a conversation without pulling your earphone in and out all the time, which I will say is one of the annoying things about when having the touch earphones is you're pulling it out and of course it's doing controls. Sometimes that is one of the disadvantages. But nonetheless, I think the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro is an absolute home run from Samsung for this price range, for this this niche of the market. I'm extremely pleased to have had a chance to actually give them a shot, and they worked perfectly with my mobile device of choice, and absolutely may end up being my sort of everyday earphones, where I'm not sacrificing quality of music for the genuine portability and ease of use, much so much more so than either lower end models or my higher end IEMs, where I do have wireless modes, but nothing nearly as light and convenient and pocketable as this. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Jason Gorber. Please subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think of this device, and we will see you next video. All the best. Take care.